that, and then that. And then, yeah, I'm going to hit the intro.
Rolling down the boulevard in the speedboat Corvette, like a tail on a tornado ring to promise soaked in sweat. One hand on the glass pipe, the other on the wheel. Devil riding shotgun, singing, boy, let's make a deal.
This is Groudless, a Justified podcast. This is a podcast where we watch every episode of Justified and then come on here and talk about it. I'm Chris. That man is Randy.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
It is
as
indeed.
Rick James would say.
As Rick James would say. Yeah, it is indeed. And that's why we're here. We're here to talk about cocaine, and more specifically, cocaine bears in this episode of Groudless. So last episode, we wrapped up season 5 with the death of Daryl Crow Jr., and we're ready to move on now to season 6 coming up here in the next month or so. But in between, we always pick a movie to check out. And this time we picked Cocaine Bear. And normally we'd pick a Leonard or an Elmore Leonard movie or a movie based on an Elmore Leonard book or a novel. But this time we picked Cocaine Bear. And the reason we picked Cocaine Bear is because season 4 of Justified, as everyone knows, about Drew Thompson and finding Drew Thompson and Theo Tonin looking for Drew Thompson and the whole story of Drew Thompson. And Cocaine Bear references, at least, or is attributable to the story that the Drew Thompson tale was based on, the Andrew Thornton story. And so we made the decision this year or this season to watch Cocaine Bear as our intra-season or inter-season movie, moving from season 5 to season 6. So we're going to talk a little bit about Cocaine Bear today. This will be shorter than a normal podcast. It won't follow the same format necessarily, but we're going to have a little bit of a conversation about Cocaine Bear, and we're going to learn something about Andrew Thornton and the story that Cocaine Bear is based on. So, Randy, did you see this did you go to the theater to see this, or did you watch it on streaming?
I did both.
Okay.
Watched it in the movie theater when it came out, was like a month ago or 2 months ago. And then I actually, because it's been so long since I seen it, I had to rewatch it. So
yeah, same. We had talked about potentially sitting down and recording it right away after the after we watched it in the theater. I'm actually glad we didn't. I'm glad I had a little bit more time to marinate on it and watch it again on streaming. And I took a couple of additional notes this time. So yeah, I'm glad I didn't. But I saw it in the theater, and then I saw it again on streaming. And so I have a few notes from my theater experience, because I hadn't been to the theater for a little while when I went and saw that movie.
Oh, this is your post COVID report.
It's not exactly my first time to the theater post COVID. I had been to the theater a few times, and we talked about Top Gun last year, and
and Matrix too, right?
Yeah, well, Matrix though I saw on streaming. So.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did.
Did I watch it? I want to say I watched it in the movie theater too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't see that in the theater. I saw that only on streaming. So, yeah, I might have appreciated it more if I saw it in the theater. Maybe, I don't know. But in any event, I went to the theater, and I saw it. I think the night it came out. I'm pretty sure it was the Friday night. It may have been the Saturday night, but I don't remember exactly. But it was an interesting mix at the screening that I went to. It was. I think now that I think about it, I think it was like Saturday morning at like 11:30 or something like that. And it was an interesting mix. There were small children there, which I thought was very odd. There's like a whole family of like 7 with their kids. And I thought that was very strange for an R-rated horror comedy, raunchy horror comedy. There were teenagers there, families. It was a very weird kind of mix in the theater, and I was thinking to myself, like, wow, this is gonna be a weird experience for these kids, because you got to figure, like, some of them were like 7 or 8 years old. I'm like, this is gonna get a little scary for them, I think.
Yeah, well, with the bear part would, because it was very graphic as far as the violence.
It was incredibly graphic.
Yeah, so there's that part, but then the other part, like the drug stuff, they would probably just go over their heads.
Yeah, that's what I figured too. Like any sex jokes or drug jokes would go over their heads, but I mean the gory, bloody violence would not. I wouldn't.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of like there's that scene where the kid goes, it's something I love to not remember that, but it's kind of seems like a thing that stays with the man forever.
That's a great line.
It's such a great line, and it made me think about those kids seeing that movie in the theater.
Do you remember the first movie that you saw, like where it had like a just a regular, not like a porno or anything like that, but like a regular movie that had nudity in it or like was R-rated or anything like that?
Oh wow! I have to think about that. Like, you mean in a theater or
as a kid? Yeah, I mean,
like
just
at home.
Maybe at like you had the not Blockbuster, but the family video store. You see, you rent a VCR tape or whatever.
I have actually kind of an interesting story about that. So my grandfather worked at an appliance store. He was a salesman at an appliance store, and they sold, washers and dryers and electronics. Also, they sold TVs and at the time VCRs and something called a video disc player. And a video disc was sort of like a laser disc. So you remember a laser disc were the big silver, LP size disc.
Yeah.
Well, video discs were like that, but they came in like a plastic square sleeve. And so what would happen is you'd slide the sleeve into the video disc player, and the video disc player would spit the sleeve back out at you, but keep the disc inside. And then you'd watch the movie on the disc, and the quality was good and the audio was good. It was a format that never really took off, but it was an interesting format, and they sold it at my grandfather's store where they sold appliances. And so what my grandfather would do is they would rent those video discs at that store. So you could go in there, rent a video disc and bring it back a few days later, because there weren't a lot of places you could do that. And so what he did is he got a couple of those video disc players and a VCR, and he started literally just copying all of those movies. So everything they had on video disc, he'd copy down to like a 6-hour VHS tape. It'd be on like EP or XP or whatever, like the longest, like the worst quality,
worst format. Yeah.
And he'd jam 3 movies onto a VHS tape. And so I had like a whole library of movies to watch as a kid. And so, they had this, and of course there were the kids movies, there were the PG-13 movies. And then, in certain places, if you found them, there were the R-rated movies with the nudity and the sexual content and whatnot. So I distinctly remember a movie. I cannot remember the title of it for the life of me, but it was a women in prison movie. I think it was Chained Heat. That's what it was. It was Chained Heat. So it's like the famous women in prison movie. And tremendous amount of nudity in that movie, and being able to like fast forward and rewind on the videotape. And in retrospect, I think about this because like I'm, like 12 years old or whatever. My friend comes over and we're, watching stuff we're not supposed to watch. And I got caught almost every time I got caught. And so I realized, it dawns on me, years later that, hey, dumbass, you were stopping the tape. You weren't rewinding it. You weren't like finding a random part on the tape. You guys would watch the nude scene and then you'd turn the tape off and eject it from the thing. And so the next time the tape went in, that was where the tape got started.
That's funny.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Chained Heat. I probably saw, Airplane has this glorious scene, just random naked boobs in it at one point. And so I remember I was very impressionable, and that left an impression on me as well, but probably Chained Heat. What about you?
I think mine was Terminator, and it was Linda Hamilton.
Yeah,
like I think
scene.
that was like her. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's probably pretty high up the list for me too. Although I think I saw Terminator 2 before I saw the first Terminator, so that
really?
That gives you any idea how old I am. That'll help that out.
I mean, I think there was like a cavalcade of things after that, like it was, but I just distinctly remember that one, Terminator, that scene, and then I think like you watch those Friday the 13th movies. There's always a nudity in that, and then what was the other one?
Nightmare on Elm Street. I remember the girl getting like sliced up in her bed or something. I remember that.
Yeah. But it's just funny. Well, it's funny because I think with Kerry Russell in this movie, I think there was like her scene. There was a scene, I forgot the name of the thing, but I remember seeing like she was doing that like there's a scene where she's like walking through water, like it was like one of those summer things, and that was like one of those like Phoebe Cates from Fast Times at Ridgemont. Like one of those things.
That's funny.
But yeah,
there are a lot of little homages in this movie to other movies, and I'm certain that I haven't caught all of them, but I do have a couple that I've noted here that we'll talk about later. But like some classic horror movies. But you're talking about like even like
just like things that move the needle. When
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Got it. Yeah, no, Kerry Russell looks fantastic in this movie. So.
Yeah, she's and she has to be like pushing 40 something. Or
I would think
40,
so. She's probably getting close to 50.
Something.
I mean, she was. Felicity went to college right around the same time I did, so I'm guessing she's probably a few years older than me. So yeah, she's probably close to 50.
Yeah. Well.
So, but so we're sitting there in the theater, and the theater is basically sold out, and it's it's the typical Yogi Berra thing. Rachel and I are talking to each other, and we're talking about how nobody goes to the theater anymore. We're sitting in a sold out theater to watch a movie about a bear who does too much cocaine, and nobody goes to the theater anymore. And then trailers that I don't know about you. I got a trailer for an old person movie with Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin and like a bunch of other people.
Oh geez, I don't remember that.
I got a trailer for a heist movie with Jason Statham and Jeremy Piven. Which I haven't seen.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I think it looks like everyone is in that movie too. By the way, like I said, the note I have, and I don't remember it, but the note I have is Statham heist movie with Piven and everyone else. I think there's a bunch of people in that movie, so I think that looks pretty okay. I just saw Jason Statham yesterday. In fact, we went and saw Fast X at the theater.
Oh, how was that? It was just like bonkers.
It was the bonkers parts were bonkers and fun, but the talky parts, man, the talky parts suck.
Oh, really?
So bad. It's so bad. The talky parts, like the giant bomb rolling down the streets of Rome, headed directly for the Vatican. That while Aquaman celebrates in the background like the Joker or Nicolas Cage in Face Off. That is awesome. That part's awesome. I mean, he's an inspired villain, by the way. It's really
Momoa is.
Oh yeah, he's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Flamboyant, weird. Like he's like a blend, seriously, a blend of the Joker and Castor Troy, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, that element of it. The rest of the movie was not that great, but he was fantastic. So. And then,
Statham is fantastic. I think I mentioned it before. Like if you ever want to have a good laugh, it's Statham had this movie called Spy a few years ago, and I think it was like 2015 actually, so more than a few years ago.
McCarthy, right?
But
yeah,
what's that?
With Melissa McCarthy,
yeah. Yeah, and if you go watch the bloopers reel where he's delivering these lines, because he has to, I forgot who the director was, but he's like feeding him lines for Jason Statham to deliver, and they're just so funny. I don't know, it's great.
He gets such a grumpy face too. He really does play the straight man very, very well. So.
Yeah. So when you see him delivering all these outrageous lies, it just makes it funnier. Yeah. So I wasn't really a fan of his before because I was thinking, oh, it's the same movie or whatever. But I think he's converted me.
Cool. Yeah, I've always liked him. I've always thought he was funny. I like that the Transporter movie, I think, was the first thing I saw him in. So